Two practitioners can be in the same room doing the same activity with the same children, and one feels expected while the other feels exceptional. And what's interesting is the difference between the two is usually not what people think, because most people assume exceptional practice means you're the loudest in the room, the busiest, the one doing the most activities, or the ones with the fanciest displays. But under the new inspection framework, outstanding is gone, and the highest recognition is now exceptional. So the question is, what does that mean for you on the nursery floor day to day? In this video, I'm going to break down what inspectors are really noticing, the things that quietly separate expected practice from exceptional practice, and how you can start moving your practice up without feeling overwhelmed. And just to be clear, this isn't about judgment, this is about growth. Now, as you watch this, I want you to ask yourself honestly, where would you place your practice most of the time? Would you say you're working at an expected standard, a strong standard, or are you genuinely pushing towards exceptional? And listen, there's no shame in any of those. Most practitioners sit in expected or strong, but being honest with yourself is the starting point, because that's where growth starts. And if you feel comfortable, drop it in the comments as well, expected, strong or exceptional, because it will help other practitioners realize they're not alone. But before we jump straight into the video, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel Open Nursery with myself, Kurt Liania, where I support practitioners and nursery leaders across the UK, whether it's preparing for their inspection, strengthening practice, or helping settings understand what good really looks like under the new framework. And over the years, I've seen something very clearly. Exceptional practice isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things consistently in a way that creates real impact for children. So let's break this down properly. Let me start with something practitioners don't always like to hear, but it's important. You don't become exceptional because your manager says you are. You don't become exceptional because your planning looks beautiful. And you don't become exceptional because you've got the most displays up or because you're running around the room looking busy. You become exceptional when your impact on the children is visible. And the key word is impact. Because exceptional practice isn't about looking like you're doing loads. It's not about being exhausted by the end of the day because you've been on the go constantly. It's not about colourful displays, laminated resources, or folders bursting at the seams. Exceptional practice is about depth. It's about consistency. And it's about the kind of practice where when someone observes you, whether that's a manager, visitor, or an inspector, they can see what you're doing is intentional, that is developmentally appropriate, and that is actually moving children forward. That's what we're aiming for here. So now let's get into the real differences that Ofsted and leaders will notice. And the first area is always interactions. So before we talk about what exceptional is, let's quickly clear up what it isn't, because there are some myths floating around in early years. Exceptional practice is not a loud room full of constant noise. It's not rigid control where children are sitting perfectly still and doing exactly what they're told. It's not having perfect children who never argue, never cry and never struggle. It's not reward charts everywhere or stickers being handed out every 5 minutes. And it's definitely not constant adult direction where children are told what to do, where to sit, what to say and how to play. In fact, some of these things can actually limit depth of learning. Ofsted aren't looking for busy, they're not looking for performance, they're not looking for control, they're looking for something much more powerful. They're looking for depth of interaction, clarity of intention, emotional safety and visible impact on children. And that tends to show up in 4 main areas. Those 4 main areas are interactions, curriculum understanding, inclusion and emotional regulation, and professional mindset. If those 4 areas are strong, everything tends to follow. So let's go through each one properly, and I want you to be thinking as we go, where are you strongest and where could you grow? So let's start with interactions, because this is where inspectors notice things very quickly. Let me give you a quick contrast. An expected interaction might sound like, yes, that's a big tower, well done, good job. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's appropriate and it's supportive. But an exceptional interaction goes deeper. It might sound like you've balanced that carefully. I can see you put the wider blocks at the bottom. I wonder what would happen if we added another one to the base. See the difference? Exceptional practitioners extend thinking. They use something called shared sustained thinking, which means they're not just responding, they're exploring ideas with the child. They extend vocabulary naturally without it being forced. They tune into emotions. You look frustrated. That didn't go as expected, did it? They follow the child's thinking rather than redirecting it too quickly. And importantly, they give thinking time. They don't rush in to fill silence. They sit in the moment. Exceptional practitioners don't feel the need to constantly talk. They're comfortable observing, waiting, listening, and their tone matters. It's calm, it's steady, it's emotionally attuned. That presence alone changes the atmosphere of the room. And here's a question for you. What do you think inspectors notice first when they walk into a room? Is it the displays? Or is it the way adults are interacting with children? Or anything else? Drop your answer below. I'd love to see what you think. The second area where exceptional shows up is curriculum understanding. And this is where many practitioners underestimate themselves. An exceptional practitioner can confidently answer, why are we doing this activity? What are children actually learning here? What came before this? And what comes next? And also, how would I adapt this for different children in this room? And here's the hard truth. Delivering an activity is not the same as understanding progression. You can run a beautiful activity, but if you can't explain how it builds on prior learning or supports future development, it stays as expected. Under the new framework, inspectors are listening carefully for articulation. They're listening for language like, we introduced this last week. This builds on their understanding, or for this child, we've adapted by. If we break it down simply, expected understands the activity, strong understands the purpose, exceptional understands progression and adapts in the moment. That last part, adapting in the moment, is where exceptional really stands out because it shows depth, not just preparation. The third pillar of exceptional practice is inclusion and emotional regulation, and this is more important now than ever. Ofsted are placing increasing emphasis on inclusion, well-being, and how settings support diverse needs. Exceptional inclusion isn't just having a policy, it's visible in practice. It's seen when an adult co-regulates calmly with a distressed child instead of escalating, when adaptations are obvious, different seating, visual supports, simplified language without making the child feel singled out. When practitioners notice the quieter child in the corner and gently bring them into interactions. When send awareness is embedded, not reactive. When emotional modeling is consistent. I feel frustrated too sometimes. Let's take a breath together. Exceptional behaviour management isn't about control. It's about regulation. It's about adults staying steady so children can borrow that steadiness. It's about consistency across the team. And it's about feeling emotionally safe. If your team are focusing on behaviour or inclusion this year, then share this video with them. These are the conversations that generally raise standards. And there's one more area where exceptional practice shows up, and it's often the quietest one. It's mindset. Exceptional practitioners aren't defensive, they're reflective. They don't fear feedback, they're curious about it. When something doesn't go well, they don't immediately blame the child, the environment, or the day. They ask themselves, what could I adjust? What might I try differently? Or what is this telling me about the child's needs? That curiosity is powerful. Exceptional practitioners see development as ongoing, not something that finished when they got qualified. They actively deepen their understanding of child development. They keep safeguarding knowledge fresh, not because they have to, but because they understand how serious it is. They take ownership of standards in the room, and they contribute to improvement culture, not with criticism, but with professionalism. And I'll say this from experience. When I work with settings preparing for inspection, this mindset shift is often the biggest difference between a room that feels expected and one that feels exceptional. It's not louder, it's not busier, it's just more intentional. So let's simplify this. Expected practice is doing the job properly. It's safe, it's appropriate, and it meets requirements. And there's nothing wrong with expected, but exceptional goes further. Exceptional understands impact deeply, exceptional acts intentionally, and exceptional adapts consistently. It notices, it adjusts, and it extends. And here's the encouraging part. The gap between expected and exceptional is usually smaller than people think. It's rarely about massive changes. It's about small shifts in language, in awareness, in reflection, and in consistency. And that should feel empowering because it means that it's accessible. So if you're thinking, okay, how do I actually move forward from here? Let me give you something practical. First, deepen your understanding of child development. Not just milestones, but why children behave and learn the way they do. Second, strengthen your language modelling. Be intentional with vocabulary. Extend thinking naturally. Third, improve your curriculum articulation. Practice explaining out loud what children are learning and how it builds over time. And fourth, reflect weekly, not yearly. Ask yourself, what went well this week? What could I deepen? And what impact did I see? And finally, don't wait for your inspection to start improving. Growth should feel continuous, not reactive. None of this requires perfection. It requires awareness. So if your goal in 2026 is to feel confident, not nervous, when someone walks into your room, then I really recommend watching my other video on what Ofsted look for during observations next. It will completely change how you approach daily practice. And if you want regular breakdowns like this, practical conversations about inspection, curriculum, and high quality early years practice, then make sure you subscribe. This channel isn't about shortcuts. It's about doing early years properly. And if you have found this video helpful, share it with your team because these are conversations that raise standards, not just for inspections, but for children too. But before you go, I'd love to know, what do you think is the biggest difference between expected and exceptional practice? Drop it in the comments below and I'll see you on the next video. God bless.